don't know, something about me not listening to her or something. I wasn't really paying attention. But the thing is, I think there was another guy. Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. This is episode 238, and it is March, bitches. I'm your host, the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. Before we get started, let's go around and meet my fellow bro for tonight. Joining me for the movie discussion is our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli. Ronnie, as I said, it's March, which means spring break. And I have to tell you something that the other bros have been meaning to say to you several years ago, or for several years now. This year, we don't want you to compete in any spring break wet t-shirt contest, because if we're being honest, you don't have that hoe in you.
Well, that's unfortunate because I'm contractually obligated to per the our business Pro 4 Squad contract. So, otherwise you guys lose all your money, and that's what's keeping us together.
You're like, I've already pre-signed up for a bunch. You save on entry fees. Like, they have pre-sign-ups.
You get free drinks.
I thought they just find like drunk chicks there. No, you have to sign up in advance.
It's a grueling tryout process. It takes
There's
6 months.
There's a lot of paperwork, but if you do it before online, you save a shit ton of time.
Fun fact, 60% of applicants don't make it.
Wow.
It's just an honor to be involved.
It really is. And, it goes to Charity. Charity being the stripper who wins, usually.
And she really needs it because she just had her 4th kid, and we could not be happier for her.
But this dad is going to stick around. I have a pretty good feeling, and usually my feelings are spot on. All right, well, with it being March, the actual important implication is there's some small basketball tournament, but I don't know, YMCA hosts something that goes on. But what you're really here for is the annual, this will be our 8th or 9th one, I don't even fucking know anymore, Bro 4 Squad Movie Madness Tournament. If you go to our YouTube channel and just search Movie Madness, you'll see all the ones we've done. We started originally in 2014, or 2016, I think. I don't even know when we fucking started this. With a 64... Yeah, with a 64 film comic movie madness tournament, and we've kept up the tradition.
Ever.
Horrible idea. Once we got into it, we were like, can we stop midway through? Imagine if the NCAA tournament did that.
Virginia loses again as a 1 seed. You're like, you know what? Let's just stop this.
We've invited too many teams. Sorry, Monmouth, but also you're the direct reason for this. And this year, we are doing 2000's comedy movie madness. So, Cycli, before we get into the process here, why did we decide to do this? Because we love comedies on the pod. I feel like every single year, though, we have less and less good ones. And when we were looking back, this was a time in both our lives, I think, as far as like formative years, it was powerful. But also, are we being too biased with thinking this is an insanely stacked list of comedy movies?
It to me, again, in my lifetime, and I think of highs in the 90s, some of my favorite comedies in the 90s and in the 80s, but it was a golden era of comedies. It was almost like there was like a freedom of comedy there. And it does feel that as of late, maybe the last decade or so, there's been some good movies, great comedies overall, but the sheer number of it does feel like Hollywood in general has kind of moved away from the overall silly type comedy that doesn't really have much more than the comedy within. Now, there are a lot of movies on this list that have heart, but a lot of them just do not. And so that's what made some of them great. Like, there was no intention to make you feel anything other than laughter. And that's something that separates us now. We've talked about that, how horror movies are very much rarer to get just straight gore and slasher. They all have to have meanings now. Now, for horror, I think it's benefited in certain ways. Comedies, we just haven't had a good year in comedy in a long time. So I think it's a perfect time to go back and look at the golden era. And these movies, honestly, on this list, there were a lot we had to pick from, have aged really well and are still part of the zeitgeist of comedy and movies that are still talked about today.
And I think that's the hardest thing for comedies, is to age well. Like, if you make a lot of like timely jokes, like even in like Dodgeball, for example, like the Lance Armstrong cameo has almost like come back around now, and it's like ironically funny. But if a lot of your humor is predicated on like the, like Weekend Update joke of the day, it doesn't age well. Or obviously, like, as society changes and says, yeah, that's kind of taboo now, don't make that part of your humor. It's tough. But I think this list, again, we're probably being a little biased, but like you said, I do feel like it is a golden age. And when you look at the depth of some of these films and the ones that like we almost couldn't include, but we found a way to stretch the field like the NCAA tournament does. I think that speaks volumes to it. Okay, so our Movie Madness tournaments have been anywhere from 8 movies or actors competing against each other up to 64. And cyclically this year, we tried to limit the field to 8 at first, but again, as you and I started putting together, running through the films that came out in this time in the early aughts, we said it's just impossible to limit it to 8. So why don't you briefly explain what we did with our top 8 and then what we're going to do here with the next 16?
I know everyone loves the new NCAA football playoff committee. Everyone got rave reviews. It was so phenomenal, and we had there was the play-in games, and top teams got buys. And there was 0 complaints, and we're like, hey, we should replicate that.
Because who doesn't love the NCAA?
Who doesn't? I for one, absolutely love it. And so, honestly, what happened was because it was a golden age, it felt almost criminal to knock some movies out. And it became sometimes when in a lot of genres, you're like, oh, you have 1 or 2 great ones and there's a drop off. Well, on this one, 8 to 9, there was almost 0 drop off. Then we got to 16, very little drop off. And then we decided that, look, we'll have 24 movies, and even cutting out the 24, 25 was difficult. However, what we decided
you're waiting for them to fall off a cliff, but they just don't.
They just don't. We could honestly have kept going. We could have done 50 easy. If you look up the IMDb or Collider or any other top 50 comedies of the aughts, it is hard pressed to find, and just we're not even close to that anymore. So what we decided to do was give our top 8 bye week, and let them stay at home a little bit, let them watch their opponents, prep for them, and we'll have the bottom 16, so 9 through 24. They will all be matched up together. There'll be 8 victorious movies out of that, and then they'll play our 8 with a bye. So we're going to go from 24 to 16 to 8 to 4 to 2 and have a winner.
Perfect. And to determine these matchups, there'll be a couple of different ways we do it. Some might be fan vote. Most of them probably will just be bros on the pod. If we have 3, we'll do a majority to pick the winner. And if we just have 2, we'll each vote. And if it's tied, we'll go to the internet consensus among Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd, and IMDb. But tonight, we're just going to reveal the field. This is just the selection show, especially in honor of the late Greg Gumbel, who crushed this so spectacularly.
Damn, that's crazy. That's the first March Madness without him.
I know. It's going to be super weird. So I'm going to reveal the top 8 that have a bye. Like you said, it's likely. These are the ones that will await an opponent who will come to them after the field of 16 is revealed and randomly selected tonight. And one of those movies will face off each against one of these. So the 8 movies I'm about to read right now from the early aughts have already advanced to, do we want to call it the second round, or are the other team movies just in the play-in?
We'll just say the Sweet 16. I don't think we can get sued for that, right? No one's ever trademarked that.
There's no way. I've never even heard of that, to be honest, except for that MTV show about spoiled rich kids who would get extravagant birthday parties.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Super Sweet 16.
Yeah. Okay, so these are in no particular order. I think it's important to point out. So this is not revealing an inherent bias that Cycly and I have ranking these movies. Maybe slightly. Yeah, but these are the top 8 advancing. We have Superbad, The Hangover, Step Brothers, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, Old School, Wedding Crashers, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Tropic Thunder.
It's a heavy list, man.
It is a heavy list. And obviously from this time period, we see a lot of recurring actors and directors sort of cycle in and out. Anything out here jump out to you, or is there a movie that you're a little bit surprised made the cut? Not that it's obviously not great, but this is a fucking gauntlet. And when we get into our top 100 lists, a lot of these have still yet to surface. And that I'm not saying that as if they're not going to be there. I'm saying that as if they are.
Well, I got to give shout out to our boys who sometimes just gets a lot of, maybe he's just around too much and, live yourself long enough to see yourself become the villain. But hearing those movies, there's one name that sticks out, and it's Will Ferrell. Yes. And now Will Ferrell can be someone who just drives you crazy. He's on a lot of movies out there, right? And some of them have been absolutely incredible, and some of them have not. But you still have to at the end of the day, even if Will Ferrell's not your kind of guy, you got to give appreciation and respect to what he brought to the game, especially in the late 90s to Saturday Night Live, where it really reinvigorated Saturday Night Live after like the early '90s cast left with the Chris Farleys and Adam Sandlers. Also, I think when I think of like movie, it's hard to say what hasn't made it. To be honest with you, I think the one movie that maybe got on this list that might not be on a lot of others, that we just love so much is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall could easily be around that 9, 10. But that movie just has a lot of heart. And I think that's probably.
Yeah, oddly for me, that was the first time I saw Jason Segel in anything. I didn't see Freaks and Geeks, and I don't know what else he even really would have been in before that. But I remember seeing him in the trailer, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Like, he's got a nice like everyman vibe to him. And then of course he wrote, and he didn't direct. I think Nick Stoller did, but he wrote the screenplay, which was great.
Well, he was in Donnie Darko too.
Like, he was
a bully in Donnie Darko.
Him and Seth Rogen both were in that.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Seth Rogen. My bad.
Jason Segel.
Jason Segel. Oh, I got. Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking. You said Freaks and Geeks, and Vine went to that. So yeah.
You were gonna blow my mind if him and Seth Rogen were in that.
That would have been. If they were the bullies, I would have been like, "Holy shit!" Yeah. No. Sorry. My bad. I thought you were talking about Seth Rogen. Yeah. Who also is well represented. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. Okay, so those are the top 8. We're going to have a link in the description of this. I'm going to put together a Google Sheets that will have the bracket in it, which will be live updating as we go. So go ahead and click on that if you want to see the movies. It'll be available for you. All right, Cycling. We have 8 different matchups that we're going to draw here. I have written down, as you should be, I've written down all of the other 16 movies that are going to compete. I don't even think it's worth reading them before. We'll just surprise our audience.
Well, it's funny because exactly, because it's right now someone's rooting for a certain movie from the aughts, and it's like watching their team get selected on March Madness on Selection Day, and they don't know if they're going to make it or not, right? Like there's a lot of movies on the cusp here.
Yeah, we got like there's a camera on like Zoolander and Talladega Nights and The Breakup, and all these people are wondering like, are we going to get in? Will we hear our name called?
And some won't. I'm just going to tell you. Some will not.
Some will be disappointed.
There will be controversy.
But I will say this. Every movie we wrote down will get picked. So the 16 we wrote down, so there's not going to be like a random one that we don't get. So that
would actually be really funny that you and I are like, who put that in there? I'm so confused.
Whoops. All right. Cycling. Our first matchup. And again, these, we're just going to randomly have them face an opponent after their first round, is Super Troopers.
Okay, let's go.
Against Mean Girls. That's an interesting one.
Those are very different movies. Very different movies. You're talking about a team that slows it down, plays in the paint, versus a team that
just jacks up
half courts. Yeah.
And I don't know which is which in this analogy, but
I don't either. but there's just very drastic differences between these.
We got What's a Liter of Cola versus Amanda Seyfried having ESPN. Let's see if we can make a reference from everyone that we pick.
I like that. Yeah.
It'll be a fun game for us. Okay. Next 2.
That's so fetched, bro.
Role models going up against a 40-year-old virgin. Whoa. You know where I got this? From your mom after I fucked her last night.
Is that
Kelly Clarkson?
You know how I know you're gay? I didn't know I didn't know I was gay.
You ate a spinach dip out of a bread bowl.
This is an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
Like for like
Paul Rudd a little Paul Rudd on Paul Rudd crime here.
I don't know how you could have Paul Rudd lose. It's kind of be hard to see.
All right, next 2. We have Legally Blonde. What, like it's hard?
That's going to be their motto every time they win on the locker room.
Yeah, you beat so-and-so. What, like it's hard? And I Love You, Man.
And two of the comedies, not a lot of the early comedies had a lot of depth, and we got 2 of them right here that have that.
Yeah, will I Love You, Man be able to slap it to base against Legally Blonde? Matchup nightmare.
Man, Paul Rudd representing the Autumn 16 here.
Good job for him. All right, next 2 are Meet the Parents. I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? And Shaun of the Dead.
Ooh, difficult here.
One that you and I really stand for.
Yeah, but
go to Westminster, have a pint.
A little different audience base on these movies compared to some of the others we've had.
Both much more reserved comedies, and I say that in the sense of like we don't have the screaming character.
Yes. It's less slapsticky. It's developed humor, not highbrow humor.
Good differentiation there. All right, next two, Pineapple Express going up against Dodgeball. Dodgeball was one that I know we considered putting in the original top 8.
And Pineapple Express almost it's a later aughts movie. It very much, I feel like, is again a very different realm of comedies that came out of the bottom half of the decade there.
Yeah, for sure. And
fucking linger.
As I say, once a monkey's out of the bottle, man, that's it. And I've even seen a grown man satisfy a camel. Yeah. All right, we only have 3 left. Next one is School of Rock taking on Team America World Police. Wow.
This might be the biggest. That actually
is School of Rock the only PG movie in here? Is that rated PG?
I have to imagine School of Rock was rated PG.
And Team America is a hard R for just puppet sex alone.
Hold on, let me look at School of Rock. It might be PG-13.
That is almost as
different as Mean Girls versus Super Troopers.
It is, and that's what we like.
It is PG-13. It is PG-13.
It is? Okay. All right, so that'll be a really interesting one as we go on. It's the eye of the needle, Gary, and we both must pass through it. All right, we have Hot Fuzz going up against Zoolander.
That's a fun one. That is a fun one. Yeah. Nice little parodies, both parodies.
That'll be a high scoring game. It'll probably be in like the high 80s or 90s.
But that's the first one I feel like we got a little commonality there of what the movie's portraying.
It's like that year that they put Michael Beasley and OJ Mayo against each other. First round. All right, last matchup, The Breakup going up against Borat.
Jeez.
Very nice. Very nice. My wife
is breaking up with me. We're gonna come
back. Brothers, rent it sometime. It's my wrist guard. I'm gonna have to ask for that back. Hope your wrist snaps.
You would go on the kick drum. Bang.
Gary, come.
On the kick drum. Wow, that's we have some interesting matchups. A lot of these movies do not match well against the other. There's some that could have been pitted against each other, which would have been fun to watch. Sometimes this almost feels a little more chaotic, right? What kind of fan bases are we looking at? Like, how do we view these movies? Because usually they're not really comparable. We were just talking about the early aughts had a lot of similarity in their types of comedies. This list actually found a way to separate that.
It definitely did. Of these movies, just prognosticating here, because I always love when like Clark Kellogg says this. He's like, if so-and-so can win their matchup, I look for them to maybe upset Kansas in the second round. Is there a specific movie here or movies that if you were one of the top 8 that we just read, you would not want to see in the second round?
I
think I Love You, Man, especially if it gets down to an internet vote. I feel like that one's pretty beloved, and it could, if it gets the right matchup, it could definitely upset it. I also feel like Dodgeball has quite a bit of potential.
I really, especially if we go to an internet vote, it's like really some of the most memeable movies, quotable movies. Also, like I feel like any of these that like are easily quoted in today's world, even on Reddit or whatever. Super Troopers, School of Rock has found such a beloved home in today's world. Team America, I don't know how deep that one would very much shock me if that made a deep run. It's not as well remembered. Maybe just the new generations haven't seen it, honestly. But I'm really thinking the ones that are just kind of referenced in your casual day-to-day on the internets are the ones I would watch out for. And there's a few of them here.
I mean, now that you say that criteria, which I agree with, Mean Girls jumps off the page.
Mean Girls immediately jumps off, yeah. Because not only is it hilarious, it has a lot of heart.
Is it the only movie on here that was so beloved that it got a remake? It probably is.
Well, we're getting Legally Blonde 2. Well, we got multiple Legally Blondes, right?
Yeah.
Not on a remake, I guess. I mean, we got a Borat 2. We got a
Shaun
lot
of the Dead,
but it's remake.
Shaun of the Dead has spawned a few, not in the same franchise, but zombie comedies that people have.
I mean, still to this day, when shit is going and hitting the fan, like in our country or the world, if something happens, you'll still see references to like, I know what we should do. Grab a pint and let it all blow out over at the Winchester. Yep. Like that is still quoted to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be
still great advice.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So our next episode, we will begin with the matchups, but right now we'll have the bracket posted with the top 8 teams that advance. And please comment. Let us know your thoughts. Did we fuck this up royally? Do we think we got it right so far? This is just a selection show, so a lot of it was up to chance, but obviously we picked the field.
Who are your biggest, who was on the bubble to you that was shocking to you that didn't make it? Maybe one of your favorites that not everyone else, maybe loves as much.
Well, I think we can just say a little peek behind the curtain. A last-minute exclusion for ours. Wow. I don't want to tell people the movie that I wanted to add for it, but Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, did not make it. And I think that's for 2 reasons you and I could argue this one. Number one, Will Ferrell is very, very well represented in here. So if you feel like he's been done a disservice, I mean, that's pretty easy to disprove right off the bat. And also, that was kind of, for me, towards the end of, like, we got a little oversaturated with Will Ferrell. Not quite there, but Semi-Pro came out after that, and then, a couple other films of his that didn't do as well. So I don't feel like it really does anything. Will Ferrell didn't do anything there that he's not already doing in 3 or 4 other movies in this tournament.
It would be hard pressed for that to make a run.
It's not even the best Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly movie in the tournament.
Not even close. And yeah, for me, I think there was a couple that I just still like hold a special place in my heart. Like when I think of like slapsticky early out comedies, it's definitely like Euro Trip. It's definitely Waiting. Like that one. Like if
I love American Pie too.
Yeah, it's hard. If you ever work in a restaurant, Waiting is like literally such a great movie for you. For me, another one is more highbrow kind of like satire, but like Burn After Reading is absolutely phenomenal comedy of the 2000s. Hard to see where that would fit in to this. That almost has its own category, like Coen brother type, right? Comedy.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely like you can keep going down the list of movies that didn't quite make it. Like again, like when I think about like what you just said about Talladega, like Knocked Up is kind of the same thing with some Seth Rogen movies. It's like, is it the best one? Could it be on here? Sure, but it's just not. It's already well represented, that type of movie.
Yeah, well, and that's where it's like, I mean, maybe someday we'll do an NIT also, where it's like movies that don't quite make it into the tournament, we still give them something to do. Their coaches still get like some bonus.
What I'll say about those movies, while they could all people out there complaining that they didn't make it, I know right now they're looking back at the season and wondering how it didn't happen. Let's be honest. Could they have won one matchup? Maybe. None of these movies that we just mentioned we're going all the way. So while there might be controversy, the committee feel confident in the decisions we've made.
And also, let this be a lesson: schedule better non-conference opponents. Scheduling Avatar: The Last Airbender non-conference doesn't impress anybody.
And neutral games are not away games. Stop only scheduling. Go on the road.
Yeah, be brave. Road. What are you so afraid of? Not getting in the tournament?
No, look at you now.
Happened. All right, look forward to hearing from you guys listening. Again, this is much more fun when people get mad at us or approve of our decisions. So chime in below. Tournament will start next week. We'll probably do the whole first round. We can probably knock that out. I'll post a few of them too. So this will be fun. All right, moving on to the second part of our show, which is our protein shake, where we go around and talk about what is in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. It's like, let me tease one real quick. You and I, this actually just dropped as we're recording this yesterday, did a movie commentary on the 2024 Robert Eggers horror film Nosferatu, which is currently streaming on Peacock. So you guys can listen to that commentary track, watch the movie along with us. It's on our channel. Slikey, this one was a fucking blast, and we're the horror hounds on the pod. So, of course, this is like right down our alley. What do you want to tease about our Nosferatu commentary that's now up?
It's a very surprising for us. It's a very well conversed commentary on the movie where we really get down into cinematography, breakdown in filmmaking, what the intentions of the director were. It almost sounded like we were legitimate for 5 minutes. So, if anything, if you're wanting stupidity, like typically go watch any of the other commentaries. We ended this one and we're like, wow, we actually talked about film.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely stupid at times in it, but yeah, the movie's just so good and so well put together that we almost caught ourselves in. It's like sometimes we always joke on the commentaries, like when we did The Dark Knight, there was like stretches with nothing that we said because it was so good we were caught watching it.
Yeah,
that was kind of like what we were doing with Nosferatu, but we were caught actually like talking about
the intent,
movie making. Yeah,
like what are they going for here? What is the shot? What are they going for? Metaphors, like, what's oh my gosh, yeah, it's a great movie, honestly, if you haven't watched it. And even if I would say, if you're hesitant, if you're not a scary movie person, like we talked to Nate Thurman, like someone who appreciates film, I think this movie is for you. I think it's okay. I am known to misrepresent horror films to our friends and say, no, you'll be fine. It's not scary or gory at all. And then I'll be yelled at 2 hours later for
because you realize, like, you know what? I think I'm a little desensitized.
Yeah, but this one I feel like has scary elements. It's more the ambiance that's creepy. It's just, I think if you appreciate film, it's well worth the watch.
Yeah, definitely. Also, very horny movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the horniest I've seen in months.
Yeah. Non-porn related, of course.
No, just in general.
In general.
Porn related. All right, so what's something you've seen lately? What's in your cup?
I'll talk about the big one right now. Going on is Severance on Apple TV. And are you watching this? Have you watched it?
No, it's on our list soon. Yeah, we just finished another show recently, so I think the wife and I might start it up pretty soon.
So I won't give too much. We're about 80, 70%. I think one's dropping this week or tonight. The second season. I won't say too much. I don't want to give anything away. What I will say is it's been a phenomenal season. I mean, season 1 was an incredible introduction in the story. And it very much felt like, okay, well, where are they going with it? And season 2 has kept that momentum up, if not increased it. The film structure, the writing, the acting, everything is so enthralling in this. And it's like, it's so hard. Like, I look forward all week to the release of Severance. And then when it's over, you're like, God damn it, I have to wait another week. This is good TV. It's absolutely fantastic TV. What I will say, my caveat is I'm starting to get nervous. So as someone who loved Lost, this is the
exactly what
reference I'm going to say.
Yeah.
You can keep raising mysteries and raising questions, and it absolutely enthralls the viewer. It absolutely has us on the edge of our seats and wanting more and questioning everything and coming up with conspiracy theories. And I'm not saying they don't. I actually trust them so far. But they better have answers. And I'm not saying they think everything needs to be resolved at the end of a season and you start with a new story in the third. I'm not saying that. But what Lost did, and Lost still is still fantastic, don't get me wrong, but Lost absolutely lost its way there for a minute. They created too many storylines and too much controversy and too many questions, and they just kind of digging a hole instead of like digging up, right? Like this is my one concern with Severance, is that they are creating too many mysteries, and I don't know that they can properly address it to where the audience feels satisfied, if not misled, and not in a twist way, but in a way it's like, okay, they didn't know how to actually address the consequence of what their writing is.
Yeah, and I feel like what we learned about J.J. Abrams, in the decade after, is that he oftentimes will pose a question or leave a plot thread hanging that he literally does not have a solution to.
Which sometimes I feel like,
he's like, I'll write my way out of it.
Right, write your way out of it. And sometimes you probably do, and sometimes you can. It's very possible to write your way out of something. But when you do it for one thing or two things, probably it's more possible. When all of a sudden you need to write your way out of 10 things, and now the entire show is together.
Yeah, predicated on it working. Yeah, that's a big task. That is the one thing. The exact critique I heard from another one of my friends who loves Severance is he said, incredible world building, visually stunning, a very cool high concept, but I'm worried that it's, number one, forgetting all the plot threads that it's leaving out there, and number two, does not have satisfying conclusions for all of them. And the show will be the success will be dependent on if it sticks the landing of these.
Yeah, we're all a little hurt by like Game of Thrones, even though that's not really because of mystery. Like, little dissatisfied. Like, I actually don't mind how Lost ended, but the way we got there just like took a little detoury. But and again, everything about the Severance writers has led me to believe that we are actually being led to something of a satisfying conclusion. Again, I'm sure we're going to get a third season, so they're not going to solve everything. But even that being said, that complaint has nothing to do with what I've seen so far. That is my past trauma coming out.
You bring it into the relationship with
yeah,
you, though.
it's not fair to Severance, but it's definitely a little paranoid, and we'll see where it goes. But I'm very much loving this season.
How many more episodes in this season?
I believe, well, as the time this airs, I believe 2 more.
Okay. Like the one tonight would be one of those 2?
No, I think 3. Like,
okay.
because that technically hasn't come out yet.
All right. I don't know if our Apple TV Plus subscription ended after shrinking. Check.
Yeah, there's 3 episodes left, including tonight's.
Okay.
But I would say, that once, if you don't have Apple TV Plus, bring it back for a month, binge this. You'll be done with it in a few days, like easy.
Yeah. Okay. Good idea. All right. I saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Have you seen this yet?
No, I can't say I have.
So Brian Banner and I did it. It was fun. Brian Banner and I did a commentary on the first Sonic the Hedgehog when this came out, just to kind of, refresh ourselves with the world. And Cycly, I don't know if you remember this. The filming for this started happening around the time that the Obi-Wan series was like wrapping up on Disney Plus. And there was a ton of momentum at the time. And I actually thought it had even been announced at one point, but maybe it was just a fever dream, that Hayden Christensen was going to be the voice of Shadow. And I was so excited for that. And I love Keanu Reeves, but casting him as Shadow just feels like the easy thing to do. And we just had him as Duke Kaboom. So I was a little underwhelmed, mainly because I got myself really excited for Hayden Christensen in this role, even though that might have just been like literally the internet or me like manifesting it. But Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is still really fun. And if you like the first 2, you will definitely enjoy this. I grew up a massive fan of the video games, and I think this is very true to those. James Marsden, big guy, big fan of. Also watching another show of his that I'll probably wait for Brian Banner to talk about, or Thurman. But the thing that I love about these, and the thing that I kind of want your opinion on, Cycly, when you can go back and watch them, is I feel like this performance is the closest we've gotten where Jim Carrey feels like he's not in his prime again, but it's like one of those nights where like Michael Jordan was with the Wizards and he would randomly score 30 and you're like, oh yeah, that's still in there somewhere. He just can't do it as often anymore, because him as Robotnik, and in this one, I won't tell you like the plot conceit they have, but he is just having the fucking time of his life. And he's acting so ridiculous, but not in a way where you like cringe. It's like it feels a lot like kind of like Ace Ventura again, and it's so fun to watch.
I wonder if the pressure's just off and he's just having fun with it.
I've seen him make a lot of jokes about it, where he's like, you know what? I finally did a movie where I was just like, I'm doing this for my daughter because she loves Sonic, and like I know because it's Sonic the Hedgehog, I don't have to worry about like critics panning me or like shitting on the movie. So it is kind of freeing in a bit of a way.
Yeah, it's like you're doing it for the love of the game, right?
Yeah, he's a soul actor.
I think I do know the plot of the third one. I mean, I don't know if I should say it, but
don't you fucking spoil it.
I won't. Won't spoil a movie that's out already
on Paramount Plus. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. People are like, you can spoil Sonic the Hedgehog 3. How's that even possible? Like, who gives a shit? But if you like it, or you like the first 2, you like this one. One thing I will say, and this is what I've heard, I think Geiger said this on Pod, for kids' movies, these are like, and I'm not complaining because I enjoy it, but like thinking about a parent taking their kid to it, these are way too long. The average runtime of them was like an hour 55 minutes.
Damn. When you add trailers and everything to that.
Yeah, you gotta get me in and out in an hour and a half at least for a kids movie. So that's a little bit tough to swallow, but kept the tradition going. And then one thing Sonic has always done in these three movies is tease a massive like character for the sequel, and they do that again here. But I'm starting to wonder, like, all right, the longer we do this, the more obscure these characters are getting. Because this was the one time as a massive Sonic head, I was like, what the fuck is that?
That's an obscure reference to like a one-time appearance in a movie in a Sega game.
Yeah, it's getting weird. But this one was fun. If you like the Sonic movies, I highly recommend it. All right, what else you got?
So the wife and I have been just recommended this show for a long time. We're very behind on the time, so you can make fun of me for this, but it's Yellowjackets. I believe it's on Showtime, but currently the first and maybe second season have just been added to Netflix, and that's kind of why we started it. You know about the concept of the show, or have you seen it?
Yes. So I know Christina Ricci's involved. Is it like some group of plane crash survivors are like stuck in the woods and like weird shit starts happening or something?
Yeah. So it's a varsity soccer girls team who are flying to like nationals. Plane crashes, and only so many of them survive. And spoilers, first episode, but that is the plot of the show. And
If you watched it and didn't know that, I'd be like, why are you watching this? What do you think?
That's literally in the description, guys.
That's the selling point.
So they're just like, imagine a bunch of 17, 18-year-old girls stuck in the woods and waiting for help. Obviously, there's a lot of dark undertones. The story takes place with two timelines, with the girls during the plane crash, and then some of the girls in modern times. So we know, like, for instance,
wow,
like 4 or 5 girls survive long term. We don't know who else, right? Like Christina Ricci's character is an adult of
she's one of the girls,
the young girls.
Does it show them like back in society, like they've gotten out, or are they like surviving in the woods?
Okay. No. They're back in society. They have children. They have families. Whatever.
That is super interesting. I didn't know that.
So like we know for sure like 3 or 4 because we've seen 3 or 4. I'm assuming there are more out there. Versus like the 15 or whatever that, or maybe I can't remember the exact number that survived the plane crash. What I will say, we're 7 episodes in. It's very dark. But also the script writing is great. It's actually how teenagers talk to each other. Like, I hate watching things where like no teenagers talk to each other like that. I love the previous storyline takes place in the 90s, so it's great. Like the soundtrack, the clothes they wear, like, oh my gosh, I'm like re-downloading. I'm like, I haven't heard this song since I was literally in 6th grade.
You fucking sold me on this show.
I was like downloading. I was looking at my wife. I was like, do you not remember this song? Holy shit. It's great. What I will say, the biggest compliment I can give to this show, and I'm going to reiterate, it is a dark show. Like, it is, weird things are happening for sure. These kids are lost.
Is there a supernatural element to it at all?
Right now, no. I'll say that. Now, like, again, they're definitely alone in the woods, and they feel like, are they followed by ghosts, like demons, like God, praying? It's like they're very much getting in their own heads. They're just a bunch of girls alone in the woods. So maybe there is, we're not there yet. There's definitely allusions to that, but again, what's real and what's not. The best thing the show has, I have never seen such great casting between a youthful character and their adult self. It is uncanny.
It's hard to do.
It is not just, is it hard to do? Like, fine, okay, cool. You got someone with the same hair or whatever. They got people who not only look the part, like, hey, that is what that person would look like when they grew up. The mannerisms, the voices, the way they talk. I mean, it is meticulous. It is detailed. It is incredible. It is hard for you to convince me that they didn't film half of the show back in the 90s and now doing it with the adult selves there.
In a Boyhood situation?
Yeah, exactly, like a Boyhood situation. But obviously that's not the case. It's just, I appreciate the show that the adult actors who never shared, screen time with their young selves have taken the time to actually work together. There's plenty of movies and shows where we've seen this, and that's really not the case. They're just playing an adult. It's great. We're loving it so far. 7 episodes in, I believe. I have a feeling it's dark right now, and I have a feeling it's about to get way darker. So yeah, I would recommend it though.
I think the third season is currently airing.
Yes, on Showtime, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, because I have Paramount Plus, and there's a Showtime add-on you can purchase, and every time I log in, it's like trying to prompt me to do that. Just shows you how weird these licensing deals are. Like the fact that Paramount, who owns Showtime, has their own streaming service, but they're also putting this on Netflix.
Yeah, for like I mean, you can say like Netflix, like when something gets put on Netflix, it definitely catches in more of a audience.
Yeah. So maybe the plan is let's put the first two seasons on Netflix.
And everyone will want to subscribe.
Right. And then they come pay to watch the third one. That's actually a pretty genius idea.
Because Showtime for the longest time only really had Dexter. And they had Dexter, and that was like what everyone watched. And now they're having like a prequel to Dexter. They're having
Is Billions
sequel
to Showtime?
I think so. But did you know that they're coming out with like 3 more Dexters, like a prequel, another sequel, like it's a side story? Yeah. I think Showtime just like that's the IP they have, and they're like just living with it.
Beat it to death, yeah. Nice. All right, I'm definitely gonna check that out. I was mildly intrigued, and then I think you saying part of it's set in the '90s. I was like, all right, well.
Yeah, you'll love the girls. You'll like the again, just the I don't know. We always reminisce about those times. It's just cool to kind of be taken back.
Yeah, and I'm assuming there's like some sort of mystery behind everything.
Yeah, it feels like Lost. It's like I was joking. It's like horror meets Lost.
Nice
ensemble cast, mystery of what's actually happening.
The framing device of like part of it being set in present day is crazy cool to me.
Yeah,
or at least like advancing beyond when they're in the woods.
Well, and it shows you that there's a conspiracy. Like obviously something happened to them. And
right.
And the adult side of it is like I want to give away too much, but that adds to the mystery.
Wow. All right. I got one more because I think a couple of these I want to talk about with the other people who have seen them. So this is just a light one. Pop Culture Jeopardy. The 40-episode tournament finally concluded on Amazon Prime. This is hosted by Colin Jost. Have you checked out any of this?
Yeah, we've watched about 8 or 9 of them so far.
Okay. I fucking love this. I've been a casual Jeopardy fan, I'd say. Nowhere on like Nate Thurman's level, but I think like everybody, sometimes I feel dumb watching Jeopardy with how few, I mean, depending on the categories, obviously, but how few of the answers I know. And part of the fun in a game show is when you can kind of feel like you're playing along at home. And Pop Culture Jeopardy, this is probably a pathetic thing to say, but my God, is this down my alley because of how lowbrow and just ridiculous the categories were. We had everything from Nintendo 64 to 90s sitcoms to name that Pokemon. It was like literally built for me, and I had a fucking blast. Never felt so smart in my entire life. And I'll just say, if you and I put together a team, I don't know who we'd pick for our third. People can fight over it. I think we would have done actually pretty well on this. Because most episodes, I actually was getting like 50% of the questions right.
Yeah, to go much further in Pop Culture Jeopardy then.
Right. Very good for my self-confidence. The prize was $300,000. Winner.
Do you like that it's do you like that it's team mode versus like just individuals?
Probably not. Yeah, but it was kind of interesting.
Just get more involved, I guess.
Yeah, and they did something with it. Like they had a new question type called the triple play. It was basically like the Daily Double. Like it would be hidden behind one of the clues, and if you picked it, whatever the question was, there were 3 responses. So it might be like, name the 3 Powerpuff Girls, and each person on your team would have to name one of them, and it was triple the points. So that was kind of, that was only one thing that they did, like that kind of incorporated the 3 people into it.
I would keep getting mad at your one teammate who keeps buzzing in and keeps getting around. I'm like, bro, I know that. Stop.
That was kind of happy. You could see like team dynamics definitely like played a part. And like if you fucking bitch at the one guy for getting a couple questions wrong, and then he gets like gun shy with the buzzer, but he actually knows one, but he doesn't buzz in because
he looks at
he's afraid of getting like yelled at. Yeah, it's like just kind of funny to see. And you could tell some of the teams like went on the show together because they're like, hey, I feel like these are like, this person on my team is really good at trivia, but in real life I actually fucking hate them. So this is like a business decision.
Yeah.
To have them.
I'm paying for it, literally.
Yeah, we're not hanging out after when the taping concludes. Like that's the end of our relationship. I don't know if they'll do another season. It definitely felt like a one-off. I know they've done like Sports Jeopardy in the past, which is kind of cool. I wish they'd bring that back. But these like niche Jeopardies, it felt like pretty inexpensive to produce, and
Has to be.
yeah, it's just like fun to have a spin-off where I feel like it's a little more down my alley.
I don't think they would hurt for them. Like Jeopardy doesn't mind being like, more accessible to everyone. And it's nice that it's streaming. I could see them doing it once a year.
I mean, I'm the high man on it, but I wish this was like its own once a week show. That would be so cool. That'll never happen. But a guy can dream. Are you got anything else?
Yeah, I got a lot, but I can save them. There's like too many to talk about. It's been a while since we've been talking what we've been watching. So yeah, it's like I think
Why don't
I can
you pick
mention
one more? The people want
I'll
one.
mention one that I know you watched, unless you already talked about it, but I don't think you have. Like the Gabby Petito. Yeah, like watch that. What's that actually called? Like American Murder Story.
An American Murder, Gabby Petito. Yeah.
Yeah. American Murder. There's a couple of those. I know they did Lacey Peterson and a few others, but the Gabby Petito one, I followed that. I basically live on Reddit. I followed that one for a while. When it was ongoing, I was really like up to date on like from the beginning, like all the internet sleuths, the tracking the time where the van was, everything. It is crazy again how like we can merge real life suffering into like entertainment, and we're all victims and guilty of that at the same time and get caught up and so it was. The mystery, it's just sometimes it plays out to something that's like, well, how you can't just not look away. It's just such a crazy story. You have to pay attention and young kids and this and this and this. When I took away, I wouldn't say I watched the documentary and gained too much information. It was great I'm glad Gabby's family was involved. It always feels icky when we get the media to do these kind of things without the permission of the family. I know when that's not a documentary, but when like Netflix did the Dahmer show on it, and like the victims' families did not want that. It's just like it feels wrong. I'm glad gross, that Gabby Petito's family like looked at this as an opportunity to not just showcase their story, but also like what Gabby went through to share that message, but also to other victims other than like a pretty blonde white girl, right? Like I'm glad they like talked about that. Like, hey, like there's so many people who go missing that don't get the story told. So it was nice that they were involved. That made me feel more comfortable in it. It was interesting hearing from like Gabby and Brian's friends. But what I took away from it at the end of the day is again how, and this is such a common thing we say, is how preventable it was, right? The fact that the cops pulled them over a few days before domestic dispute, and then they like literally defend Brian the whole time.
They bought him a hotel room.
Yeah, and she like leave her in a van all by herself in the middle of nowhere. Like someone called the cops because they said he was hitting her. She's hysterical. She's scared. The female cop, she was the only one who was like, hey, they're like, well, she's defending him. She's saying she hit him. Female cop was the only one who's like, abused victims say this.
Yeah, like we've been trained on this.
Like literally trained, and then she goes, they'll defend their husband, and then the husband will kill them. Like literally called it out in the body cam video. It's just a story. It's like a dime a dozen, unfortunately, for a lot of women, which is why I think it was important that Gabby Petito's family wanted the shared signs of abuse and things like that. Overall, like I said, it was a well-developed documentary. Really, honestly, fucked up by Brian's family. Like, what kind of? I get you love your child, but like, Jesus Christ. So, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said, and it is sort of a double-edged sword, these internet sleuths, because it's these people like immersing themselves in something that really has nothing to do with them, and clearly doing it because it gives them some sort of endorphin rush, or like it's like enjoyable for them. But at the same time, they do like having that many eyes on something with the technology we have now usually helps bring a resolution to these things. And unfortunately, this is another one of those cases where law enforcement is not made out to look either competent or, I guess even the worst part when they have the body cam footage of like the house calls to Brian Laundrie's house, not very willing to help.
They don't even care. Like that guy, the
No.
Florida cop, does not care.
Right. It's like, let's just go do our job and get back to like the fucking break room, you know? And I know that that is not obviously every police officer. And most, like, especially investigators probably watch a documentary like this and they're like, God damn it, man, this makes us look so bad.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of it. And it's really sad to see. And like you said, all the warning signs that are in the documentary about Brian Laundrie, like before this happens, like ways it could have been prevented. And hopefully too, I think this is brought up a little bit in the very last episode, like people who are in relationships like similar to this, where they either feel like there's no way out, or maybe they, you know, have sort of that some version of Stockholm syndrome where they don't realize that they're in a potentially dangerous situation or how toxic things are. Maybe seeing this from like a different perspective and seeing like the way things transpired will help some people take the necessary steps, which obviously it's not easy to maybe like get out or do what they need to do. Because I think one of the saddest things in it is Gabby's friend like talking about like all the things that she would witness from Brian previously, and you're like, God, why didn't somebody just either kick this guy's ass or just like? I feel bad for her ex-boyfriend Gabby's, because I feel like
I felt bad for him too.
Himself too. Yeah.
You know who we were talking about the cops, but I will give props to that female FBI agent. The one
She's awesome.
She clearly like is an advocate for the victims. Like, man, like that is someone who is passionate about their job. She was
like tough as nails, but she got like kind of emotional at the end of it.
Yeah, like that's her life, and that's why I think sometimes we can really like put like a curtain over ourselves when we watch these kind of things and decompartmentalize and feel like it's entertainment. Like she's like, this is real life. Like these are real people, and that really made you feel when she was talking.
Yeah, and this was one where like I knew how it ended, but I kind of forgot halfway through, and then I realized like in the middle of episode 2, I remembered what happened. I was like, oh fuck, that's right.
Yeah,
so
took the easy way out.
Yeah, but this one was pretty compelling. I know, like you said, you didn't learn much from it that like we didn't know already. So maybe like from an investigative standpoint, there's not much there, but I do think, like you said, it's important and interesting to see Gabby Petito's family, who I believe did she have a sibling that wasn't in it?
I think she had like a lot of family overall. She had like, but like there was like her brother was it at the end, like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but
the parents and the step parents.
Yeah, which was important. Yeah, harrowing stuff, and again, it just pisses you off. I was really angry at the end of watching it.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of the point. All right. We end with our question and answer segment on the pod. Do you even lift, bruh? Where we ask a question that we leave you guys with for episode 238. Cycly, today we are going to continue the countdown of the Bros top 100 movies of all time. And we are really getting into serious fucking territory tonight, because we have now officially reached, or I guess we will the next episode, but the top 30, which is serious shit. So before we get into that, why don't you tell the people at home, as always, what are these top 100 lists? Because they're not some sniffy, inaccessible film critics top 100. It's a little bit different.
It's quite literally your top 100 movies. And when we say your top 100, we're not saying the top 100 best movies you've ever seen, or we could be. That's up to your interpretation. We could talk about movies that just you watched on a particular day in a certain mood, something that cheered you up, something that made you laugh or cry. It really has no defense but for you to say like, no, this is my favorite movie. And you absolutely can pick, Oscar-worthy critic, like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes film. But to you, to me, and you and everyone that has participated in this, it's like you can have that movie and then next to it have the dumbest fucking movie you've ever heard right after it, and it's just what makes it fun. And I really think everyone should do this activity, because one, it's hard, and two, it's also a trip down memory lane, and the reminiscence you get through this process is really cool.
Yeah, just like remembering when you saw a movie or the circumstances around it is part of what can elevate it into this list, and it's why it should. Because, like you said, it's your list. You don't have to, unless you're Brian Banner, you don't have to defend it. Like,
yeah, that's
Deep Blue Sea in your top 60. Come on.
No, his opinions do not match those necessarily of Broforce1.com.
Right, he's the one with the disclaimer that expressed written consent of Major League Baseball. All right. Cycly, your number 32, which was the last one you did, was Pulp Fiction, Quentin Tarantino classic. Mine was John Wick, which I believe is my, if you're just going strictly off action and not superhero movies, is my highest rated action movie. So what is just ahead of Pulp Fiction for you at number 31? And sorry, real quick, Banner's number 32 was The Dark Knight. So like this, that's why I said we're getting into serious shit here.
Yeah. My 31 is Elevated Horror's Jordan Peele's debut.
Wow.
Get Out.
Nice. That's how I know this list is getting serious, when you get out in here.
Yeah. And so Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, this film, let's go back to 2017. And I remember seeing the trailer. I can't remember what I was seeing, but the trailer comes up. And it has the black man walking through the street at night. And like he's freaked out. And I think A Red Bone by Childish Gambino is playing. And like, which is how the movie starts, but I'm pretty sure the trailer, and it's like a teaser trailer, but like, and then they start like showcasing a lot of things, but they don't tell you anything of what the movie's about. And it's just like a film by Jordan Peele. And I remember looking at my wife and I was like, well, I don't know what that was.
Yeah, because like, Jordan Peele, like from Key and Peele.
Yeah, I was like, Jordan Peele, and like, what? And I remember, I will never forget, everyone in the theater was doing the same thing I was. We were all looking at each other being like, what is that? Mm-hmm. Like, what is that movie about? What the hell? Like, it's clearly a mystery. It didn't tell us anything. Race is obviously implied heavily in the plot. Like, I was like, I don't know what that is, but we're going. And then, in the buildup, I think you and I talked about, we just don't know what the film is about necessarily, which is a theme that Jordan Peele, for the most part, has kept up through his other films. But man, this is one of those, like, what your first time is the best time for him. Mm-hmm. I will tell you this, there's a few on my list that are from the last like 8 years. And the ones that have made it on this top 30, top 31 that are on that list from the last 8 years, all have had the same consequence of me walking out of the theater being like, holy shit. Like, what did I just see?
Another one that's going to be on there for you,
exactly.
Based on that description.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot left of modern, like the most modern movies, right? Like that's on the list. But this one, the political like ramifications, the allegories, the historical nature, like everything that came with it, the mystery, the horror, the film structure, the writing, the cinematography, like just the inherent creepiness you feel, the whole movie, something just like, I can never hear someone stirring tea the same way again.
No.
The joke about like the white liberal who like would have voted for Obama the third time.
Would have voted for Obama a third time.
That like really, is the one you need to watch out for. The dread in the theater. I guess I should have told people to not like spoilers, but you know what? Again, it's 8 years old. The dread in the theater when the cops show up at the end, which in any other movie you're excited right about, like, hey, the day is saved. How everyone in the theater felt when that happened. The movie also has a lot of like comedic relief. In overall, like what the actual reveal is, I won't say that, but like it's phenomenally horrifying. But it's been a long time, and it takes a long time for a movie to make you feel this way, right? Like literally, like almost the film credits go up, and you don't even want to get up yet. Like you need to sit and just like,
let me take a break
for a while. Here. Yeah, and so Get Out is just phenomenal. Again, one of the few movies in the last decade that just absolutely stick out.
And really clever casting, because if you think about this, all right, if I would just have told you this before Get Out came out, hey, there's a movie directed by Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
And in it, we're going to have Catherine Keener from The 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yep.
Bradley Whitford, and Stephen Root, the Milton from Office Space and the guy from Dodgeball.
God, he's creepy in it. Yeah.
Like, wow, this sounds pretty fucking funny. I'm like, oh, it's not.
It's not. I mean, it's funny, but like.
Yeah. Just brilliantly put together. And
Allison
you guys
Williams,
did
this is her best film to me, because she's been weird and I don't know how I feel about her.
Yeah, same.
But she plays so well in this movie.
Perfectly cast. This is so well cast. And check out the commentary. Were you on that one, the Get Out one?
I think so.
Okay, yeah, that was one of our more interesting ones as well, just because this is a movie that so much to talk about, and it's one that I know you love films like this. I feel like every time I see it, I notice something different.
Yes, still to this day. Yeah, it's not the easily most rewatchable film, but there's a lot of Easter eggs, and once you know what's going on, you can enjoy the film in a very different way.
Mm-hmm. Just the way she eats those fucking Fruit Loops while drinking milk is insane.
Yeah, that's a crazy shot.
Fucking psycho. Yeah, and like does so much with so little. But you can just take that at face value and it can be nothing, or you can realize how insane someone has to be to eat Fruit Loops like that.
That's the darkest part of the film.
She's drinking the milk out of a glass and the Fruit Loops are dry and in a bowl. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous.
Have you tried it?
No, because I'm not fucking psycho. Well, I am. I'm just not that way. Great inclusion. Get Out. All right, my number 31, very opposite of yours. Right
Get
ahead
in.
of John Wick. Yeah, Get In. It's another porn. Like Lawrence, you need help here. This one I have a feeling is going to be much higher on your list. And as I was going through my movies, I wanted to put it higher, but I just think that's a testament to mine above, because this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is Dumb and Dumber.
I love that you started. I mean, because I knew what you're referencing when you started it, but I was like, it's perfect to talk about comedies at the start of the show, and you introduce it with Dumb and Dumber, even though it was 90s. But yeah, perfect segue.
Yeah, and it's a tough list to crack, but this is my favorite Jim Carrey movie. Looking back, it's absolutely insane that Jeff Daniels is in this.
Yeah,
like this is like a Sean Penn and Fast Times at Ridgemont High type of situation going forward. We're not going to acknowledge the sequel at all, because this one is just pure comedic genius, and the Farrelly brothers just hit it out of the park. Conceptually, I could see them pitching this to a studio, and then the studio being like, "You want to fucking do what?" He squirts the ketchup and mustard up in the air after he eats a hot pepper. Like, I don't understand.
You want a shaggin' wagon? You want a van that looks like
the soup du jour.
I still quote that every time.
Oh
every
yeah, it's
day. Anytime I'm at a restaurant, I'll have that.
The town is that way.
I love that. The end was actually them doing it, and Jim Carrey's like, "No, our characters would not."
Yeah, that's 10 times better. And I'm sure the Farrelly brothers are like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Yeah. He would flag down the van to give them the correct directions.
A little slow.
The town is that way. Do you realize what you've done? Like what he just sent him to the wrong. I thought the Rocky Mountains would be a lot rockier than this. That John Denver's full of shit. Dumb and Dumber is just incredible. If there's anyone out there that hasn't seen it in like a few years, go back and watch it, because no, it's not as good as you remember. It's fucking better.
I gotta say, there's two movies I put in a separate category of all others when I think of comedies, and it's this and Superbad, in the sense of every scene, literally every scene, is not only hilarious, right? But like every scene is quotable. You can say this scene is the best scene in the movie, and the next scene happens, you're like, this is the best scene in the movie.
Yes,
like the runway scene, the limit, like the opening of the film, and then like them going like
when they fight with the canes at the ball.
Yeah.
Time out.
Fell off the jetway again. Like that implies he's done that before. Like, what are you talking about?
Harry, I took care of it.
It is literally, there's not a slow moment, not one scene that just doesn't make me crack up the whole time.
And talk about memification, which is what has allowed these things to just live on in infamy. The classic one. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Every time, anytime. Like the
husband.
Suits.
What's with all this 1 in a million talk? That one's for a Porsche. I'd hang on to that one.
IOUs. These are just as
good as money.
Yeah, we could do this all day. It's absolutely
You've had an extra pair of gloves this whole time.
We're in
the Rockies. Oh God. I mean, we can just literally sit here and fucking quote the.
Yeah, we could just do the movie. That's what's insane about it. It is literally extremely quotable. Like, yeah. Love it.
And again, this was one, I know if you know me, people are listening saying like, how the fuck is this 31 on your list? I promise you, as I was going through it, I tried to move it up, and there's
no room at the end.
I just can't. Yeah, I just can't. All right, maybe
Hey, you want to
one
hear the
I
most
could've
annoying
looked it up
sound in
now.
the world? That I love,
Mock.
love that that's improv. Just go and watch Jeff Daniels' face when Jim Carrey does that. He has no idea it's about to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's all about. Acting alongside Jim Carrey at that time must have been pretty difficult. Like keeping a straight face, not
Well, like
breaking.
Tommy Lee Jones hated that in Batman.
Tommy Lee Jones told Jim Carrey, "I cannot condone your buffoonery."
Which is hilarious.
I
Just
know.
absolutely hilarious.
You know, that just made Jim Carrey want to be even more ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now I have to. All right. Well, Cycly, it's time we let the people go for episode 238. And a very comedy-centric episode it was, which is always good. Mix it up a little bit. What do you want to leave the people with? Your closing thoughts or words of wisdom?
You know, there's a revolution happening in this country, and people are starting to witness and fight back. And that is left lane drivers uniting and saying that if you are driving the same speed or slower than those in the middle lane or right lane, or just the right lane, get the fuck out. I have seen a lot recently on Twitter and people like complaining about this, and I'm happy. I'm like, hey, let's get the word out there. The left lane is for passing. Okay? Get out of the way. Let's keep the highway moving, people.
You know what I've been seeing a lot of lately is the road that I take to work. It's like a 4-lane city road, so it's not a highway per se, but like the speed limit is 60 on it. You get fucking cruising. And there is 4 lanes on the other side, and I've had people twice this week pull out in front of me in the left lane, and they're going like 40 while I'm doing my damage.
I don't have the patience for it, man.
I mean, look, I'm not Dominic Toretto, but like that just can't happen. Like you can't be going 40 in the 60 and in the left lane. Unforgivable.
No, the people have to fight back.
Yeah. Just get in the right lane, bro. You're about that life, and it's okay. I'll end with my typical one now that I've moved away from haircut advice, and it's whatever your community, apartment complex, neighborhood, subdivision, Facebook group of choice is, or excuse me, social media group of choices, whether it's Facebook, Nextdoor, Ring, just be cognizant of what you're posting in there, because people should be able to safely turn on notifications and not have to hear every time you see a fucking coyote. Okay.
Or just a person walking in the street.
Exactly. Like that's fine. Missing packages, totally fine. If you're selling something, absolutely appropriate. The 2 things I don't need, number 1, anyone know why there's a helicopter overhead? I don't. And the other one is, like I just said, every time you see an animal outside, unless it's like going to hurt me, I'm good. Like a coyote running across the street in the middle of the day is something you tell your husband, not everyone on social media. Thank you, though. And now, I said this last episode, the other people on the Ring app from my neighborhood it's gotten really, really sarcastic, and it's a beautiful thing to see the comments on this.
Yeah, another revolution, another way to fight back for the people.
But I'm afraid that the type of person that you would write this sarcastic post to because they post it in the first place doesn't understand sarcasm. No. Right? So it's like you're fighting a battle that it's just pointless and futile. All right, for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycly, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We are the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. We're excited to see you guys soon for the first round of the 2000's Comedies Movie Madness Tournament. You can find us on X, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, whatever, at Bro4 Squad on all our socials. And then on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you find your podcast, type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words. And check out our website, bro4squad.com. Till next time, I think I hear helicopters overhead. Let me go post on social media that I have.
Wouldn't the helicopter pilot just tell you what's going on? Just make a huge announcement from megaphone.
I'm wondering, like, who here would have information about helicopters? Like,
and why are they pulled down on?